Hey y'all, it's Alexander Williamson here with the secret history living inside your aquarium. You, right there. Alright, so today you may say that I'm inclined to look a little funny, and that's because basically I'm kind of laid up. So, pardon this, I can get up and move around every once in a while, but I'm supposed to keep my feet up for 2/3 of the time of the day, at least. So, today, what I want to talk to you guys about is ethics, or whatever you want to call it. I guess ethics in fish keeping, in fish hobbyists, things that we can possibly, laying down on the job. Tilapia Store, what up, man? How's it going? How is Florida? We've got the same temperature, and my wife doesn't know it yet, but she'll figure it out soon, I'm sure. That the reason our house is so friggin' hot is because, so it's like 95 or so in the house right now, which doesn't really lend itself to water changes with buckets as I do. But um, she's like, "Why is it so humid? It feels so humid this year." And I'm like, "It's not because I have 12 tanks instead of 3 this year. That couldn't be it." So, yeah, but the house is humid and hot. It's like 85 or 90 outside today. And our house has a black metal roof and siding from like the 60s. Like really ugly, weird deal. So hold on. I think this might have a smudge on it. So, in any case, today I want to talk to you about fish philosophy, fish keeper philosophy. As always, please feel free to chime in. I'm here to answer questions. We'll take a tour of what's going on in the tanks. Got a couple new fish. When my friends hear that I'm laid up, they're like, "Oh, we'll bring you some fish." So I got some pretty awesome friends. They brought me a lot of fish, a lot of Dr. Pepper, and a lot of candy. So I feel so uh, grateful to have the people around me I do, and to have you guys in the community. That's friggin' awesome. I love that you guys are talking on the Facebook site. By the way, if you haven't checked it out, the Facebook group is just of the same name as the channel, and lots of friendly people there, lots of helpful people there, and we try to feature you guys there. Bob Kaler and obviously Betsy Cummins is are the two big moderators there, more so than me even. And so it's about putting you guys on stage and your accomplishments. Even if that's like you have a betta and you're really happy that like it's your first fish and you got it set up, like that's a win, and I want to celebrate those. And or if that's you have lots of fish and you have a platinum arowana and you want to show that off, that's great too. But it's about the win to you and not necessarily to the hobby in general, their opinion of it, if there is a they. But yeah, so that's what the Facebook group's about. And what I hope this channel can be about too, when we chat, like, don't be embarrassed. Hold on, let me try to figure out how to hold this. Don't be embarrassed to ask a question that may seem really simple or something like that. Like, that's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. That's what the people in the chat are here to help with. Um, so yeah. But today I was going to talk about fish philosophy. Fish philosophy? Fish philosophy. So that includes things like off the top of my head, and you guys chime in anytime here and let hello from Hawaii, Keanu T-Hang, hello, Mr. D. I am doing good. I thought I was going to, and this is not an understatement, have a partial amputation of my shin and foot, because of the MRSA. I had MRSA in my bone and in my tendons, like all over deep tissue in my leg, and it had swollen my leg to double the size. So I don't want to make this about my health because I'm getting better. I'm on 4 antibiotics right now, and I have to take them at weird hours of the day, like get up in the middle of the night. But I was like literally 12 hours away from being in the ICU in a clean room and like stuck there for like a week straight on IV antibiotics instead of just like a round of them and then being sent home. So luckily for now, the antibiotics have kicked back a lot of the problem, and the tissue that's dead from the lightning strike in my leg, my body's starting to absorb it rather than just allow it to, like, there's no blood flow to it because it got burned. So at the center of it, there's just like dead protein that bacteria was able to start. It's gross. Anyways, so it's doing better, but I have to keep my feet inclined. I have to rest a lot. I'm puffy. I have edema everywhere. But yeah, I'm feeling better. My spirits are a little bit better. I get to keep my foot and my shin, which was never ever part of the like, you got hit by lightning. I thought, oh, like, oh man, I got some teeth knocked out and, all my fillings busted. And I thought that was kind of the worst of it and some memory problems. But now everywhere I got hit, that burned underneath it, there is an abscess. So it really burned deep tissue, which is unusual. Any case, let's get back to the show. So, and also, by the way, AC Aquatics, what's up, man? Oddball Aquatics, good to see you in here. I am always happy to see you because I look up to you greatly, sir. Or ma'am, but I'm guessing you're the sir of Oddball Aquatics. So, Carson, thank you to say that it's good to see I'm feeling better. I am. I emotionally, mentally right now, I'm really clear. Just woke up. I slept like 15 hours, which is what I needed. So I want to do a live cast today because I feel like it's been a little while. So you guys feel free to ask me any questions. I'm going to get up from this reclined position because I'm just frankly sick of it. In any case, oddball, nope, just Haley, girl mom, fish keeper. Oh, well, no worries. That's just as good to me. You're all important. So a couple of the Corys that I got, Fancy Tail Aquatics. Hello, Mr. Okay, so we got a question. So you bought two German gold German Rams. What is my knowledge of them? Have you gotten over your head? You may have gotten over your head from what you're reading. Nah. If you've kept, I mean, how many fish have you kept? Have you kept, let me think of a comparably hard to keep fish. Have you kept any to breed in the past? I got them to breed as a teenager pretty easily when I used to keep them. By the way, I did not put this plant in, and it has this like weird growth here, and then it has this wheat, like long wheat looking growth, and I have no idea what it is. It must just be like a seed, but if anybody knows what this plant is, please let me know. Also, by the way, I moved. Yeah, so German Rams, they're really not a big deal. You have three fry left from your Corys breeding, but they all look to be doing good. Oh, good. That's awesome. In here right now, we got tiger. These are what I was like really excited to get my hands on a culture of these. These are the tiger, red and black tiger crypt spiralis. Some of them have really cool patterns. In this tank, which is like overloaded by inches wise, we've got erythromicrons, who are usually really shy. They're zipping around. We've got celestial pearl danios. That's all new, or all the same. And they've been colony breeding, which is awesome. So when I went on vacation, or I guess looking for dentists, Mad Fish Diva, hello. When I went out of the country for a week, I let this thing just totally get overgrown, and there's like knots of roots and things, and this plant is super thick back here, the Pogostemon erectus, and that is just what Jesse Tanks, hello. That is just what the doctor ordered for colony breeding. So if you look around, we've got a lot of little fish in here. And the only issue that's going on in this tank right now is there's some black beard algae growing on some bulbitis that has not adapted to the water, which I find to be a very common problem. The bulbitis that's like water adapted, that has gone from its immersed to submerged form, is fine, but the other stuff is not. So I'm just gonna have to cut it away and leave the rhizomes is probably the plan on that. But today, what I wanted to talk a little bit about after I show you the other new things that I have acquired. So I have a video that I'll post up, but I got some after the talk the other day. I got some, let's see if we can get this darker, some leopard danios. And it was an impulse buy because somebody mentioned, what's the difference between the danios you had before and these leopard danios? And this is the answer. They're much bigger. They have, let's see if we can get some light on them. And they have a yellow, if they'll hold still, they have a yellow fin outline. And they almost look like salmon or trout, like a really skinny brook trout or something. And let's see here. Who's up here? There's one. So they've got yellow tails that are kind of translucent, and I know they're an old standby in the hobby, but they're actually kind of hard to find now. Like Aquarium Co-op happened to have some for like $250 or something, and I was like, oh, that's like a screaming deal for the level of entertainment these fish give me, because they are so quick. And originally I didn't put them in this tank, so those are new. Those are leopard danios from India, I believe. And then over here we have our Burmese danios, and you've got your fire danios, which are the orangish ones that you see zipping by that are the biggest. And then you also have your, hey Bentley, what's up, man? Chubby Donut, hello. Good to see everybody in here. So this Endler tank has kind of been co-opted by a bunch of Danio species. We've got Danio Chopra, we've got Danio, the leopard Danios. We just made it out downstairs. I'll show you that real quick before we get into the meat of the episode while people are rolling on in. But basically in here we've got Endlers with Lucas Bretz's famous Endler, and it's basically, it wasn't breeding a lot. And I decided that maybe some other fish in the tank to give it some tension and some urgency to breed or something. I don't know. It might be insane. But it worked. So having some chaos and like the threat of other fish eating them or something probably kicked his little butt into gear, and he's been impregnating the females now at a normal pace. But yeah, so we've got Kayatha Danios, Chopra Danios, and then, gosh, I love these. These are Tin Winnies. These are just gold ring Danios. You see that kind of purplish silver color, and in their fins they've got like a reddish lavender. I'll have to take some still shots and upload those. But I'm really stoked on Danios lately. Like, they're just subtly very beautiful, and they're very interactive. They're very, like, they're prone to being spooked, but they also move in a group very interestingly, even across species. So even though there's 4 species in there, 5 species in there, they're all just chilling and getting along. They're all Burmese species or Thai species. Most of them are from Lake Inle and the Shan province of Myanmar, which is former Burma. This tank is low tech right now. You can see the yellow shrimp. The thing is, they are going to eat the shrimp. So, all right. So let's go downstairs real quick. I'll start answering some of these questions I see piling up. Super excited. I just bought Gregory Jones. I just bought 10 cherry barbs, and you see they seem to all be dying. Can you please tell me what might be what it might be, please? I had them about a week. Gregory, did you have those those barbs in a tank with other fish that have been successful? It could be that the tank itself is the parameters are off. So the first thing I always recommend is check your parameters. So your pH, your ammonia, your nitrates, and your nitrites. Right there, that'll tell you if your tank is cycled, if maybe a fish died, that caused an ammonia spike, or plants died, and you got an issue there. Maybe your substrate has ammonia leached from it, because it could have been like, I just had this happen. Get out of my face, hair. I just had this happen where um, basically I had, uh, let's see here. Well, I'll show you. So I had this tank and it was doing really well. There was no ammonia showing up, which surprised me. And it's just because it's a 40-gallon compared to upstairs the 17-gallon. There's so much more water to the substrate, and the plants and stuff are eating up the ammonia at just a fine pace. But when I disturbed the substrate, the ammonia level rocketed and the fish didn't look happy. So right now I just have these wild style blue, they're called blue sky or blue window endlers in here, and they're all just chilling. I do have a couple more adult mixes of some Japanese blue mixed with those endlers. Come on, focus. It's hard to get it to focus on the front of the tank, but you get the idea. They got the leer tails. Okay, so, but I would test all of that, and yeah, Gregory, test all that. Let me know if there's any marks on the fish. That can help, but it's kind of a stab in the dark without knowing a little bit more. But I have also had some cherry barbs die on me in the past from shock. So I think they're a little prone to, like, if they were in a bag and then they get transferred, I think they get kind of rattled just by transport. Okay, Jesse Tanks. I got a shipment of 20 sherry shrimp and I have them in quarantine, but I've noticed some green fungus. Yeah. I can never say it. Ellipsode. Elio. Elio. Okay, whatever. You guys know what it is. It's a green fuzzy monster fungus. There is not a way to treat it that I know of. I have read people saying they know how to cure it, but I don't think they do. I mean, Rob from Flip Aquatics, literally, his advice is to separate and kill those and get a refund, essentially. So, yeah, the other thing with your cherry barbs, Gregory, is I would make sure there are a lot of plants in your tank if you don't have them already. Plants help everything. Also, catappa leaves are another great little, like, why are my fish sick? Because it's an antifungal and anti-parasite that's in the tannins in specifically catappa leaves. You can also find it in other leaves, mulberry leaves and things like that. But it is, yeah, it's I recommend it heavily. I hide my catappa leaves just tucked back behind some rock. This tank isn't scaped, by the way. I have a lot of work to do in here. Right now, this tank is, well, I'm grafting about a dozen species of Boos and Anubias onto a tangle of spiderwood. But other than that, this tank, none of this stuff's going to stay where it's at. It's all in here just to grow. I got a Fluval 3.0. Somebody was so kind as to say, here's a super chat. I want you to use it towards, actually it was like 5 people all did it back to back. And they were like, we want you to use this for a light that's better than that crappy Nicrew, which is back here. And put it on the 40 breeder, which is great because this is going to be my operations base. This nest I have built is where I will be for probably 6 months, maybe up to a year between spine surgeries and stuff like that. So hopefully I can get up and walk around and do fun things in between, go interview some people, Skype some people, all that. But yeah, AC Aquatics is right. The green fungus is a death sentence in most part unless you can catch it early. Even if you catch it early, I don't know what you can do unless it's just on the eggs, and then you just, it's kind of barbaric, but you scrape the eggs out and separate them. Oddball Aquatics, you have a good one. Take care. Can you mention where you got them to? Yeah, totally. I would like to know, where did you get those shrimp? Now, it is possible, like Flip Aquatic, he even said in his recent video, we do have the ellipsodi soda, whatever, however you say it. But I really need to learn how to say that word because it's never happened to my shrimp, but my shrimp, my Neocaridinas, have almost all come from either. Let's take a look at them. Let me turn some things on too here. My shrimp have all either come from Aquatic Arts, who's really good in my experience, even though they buy overseas and everything. By the way, I'm feeding my leopard snail colony. I've got black ones, and then I've also got these other ones. But we've got some like dark green King Kongs, and also some green Hulks, which I am really excited in the Caridina tank that I have some green Hulks. I don't know how I made them. Must have gotten some Michelin shrimp in the blue bolts that are in here, but I got them. Now, another friend came over and brought me this log, and yeah, come on in. My buddy's here, who's a philosopher, and so this Java fern was covered in the Java. I don't know if it's like sap and then it gets a parasite or something, but whatever it is, I've seen it on Java before. I think it's from too much ferts, honestly, or something along those lines. And if you guys know better, let me know. But that is being eaten away like voraciously. Is that a variation of crypt that are super rare? The red and black tiger crypt is pretty rare. This is Java. This is narrow leaf Java fern, and it's grafted onto a log right now. Log, and the baby blue. These are all from LRB Aquatics. His blue dream, bluest shrimp in the world, are eating that black stuff off of it. Like every leaf looked like this 3 days ago, and they are like eating it all off, which is nice. I didn't know what they'd do. I was kind of curious myself. Now in this tank, I all critters. You'll get all sorts of little seed shrimp and paramecium and all sorts of stuff like that. And yeah, it's nice to just not have to, like, I don't even have to feed them for like a month. They just do their. I need to clean up this, but it's all bright substrate. I need to clean up because I put a green bean in here last night, and instead of taking it out like I should have, this is what happens. But take note, there's not paramecium in here. Now, these red ones these are cherry red shrimp here. It's a little confusing because I have King Kong red in here also, and black King Kong, but you can tell the difference between the Neocaridina, just the way their growth plates kind of are, and the stature of their body. They're not quite as beefy, and they definitely have more of a translucency to them that is noticeable. Like, and they're kind of this cherry bright color, whereas the other ones are like a blood red color, more like a Bloody Mary. So it's easy for me to tell the difference. But also going on, growing the RO2 eggs out here. I just did a video on how to deal with them well. There are my Julii corridoras have been trying to spawn, and I put a spawn mop in there, and I've been putting their favorite foods in. Sorry guys, in there. I thought you could not mix kinds of red cherry shrimp as water parameters. I am a guppy guy. What do I know? So that's actually on my list of philosophical stuff to discuss today. So, is it okay to put a fish or a shrimp out of its comfort zone. This tank is not in any way, shape, or form set up for shrimp. Just no way. And this guy I didn't want to like outright kill, but I wanted to like see how he'd be. And I put him in here as a little baby, and he is doing great. He is the king of the roost. There's a green shrimp in here also. That's also like a queen of the roost, and she's got a gold stripe if we can see it. Nah, water's moving too much. But you can see her there. She's got a gold stripe. Just trust me. So those two shrimp are doing great, and that was one of my ethical questions, though, is like, should you try to push things to the limit if it may mean your animals die? And I think you can only know the right answer to that. And for everybody, it's a different answer. For me, what I did is I set the dial to Caridina. I set it to Caridina in both these tanks, and the Caridina, ironically, or not ironically, they're doing well, but the Neocaridina, the blues, not so hot. So I cranked the dial a little towards a higher GH in here. I added some crushed coral and some GH booster, but the adults didn't do well. Now, all their babies, though, are just doing gangbusters in here. So what I've been doing is moving the babies to other tanks in order to get them out of this water, which is good enough to breed in, but it's a little soft for them. But the red crystal shrimps in here are doing well. I don't know where they're at today. To them, it's the heat of the day. So, like, let's move some stuff around and see if any come out. But to them, it's the heat of the day, and this is a pretty planted shrimp tank. Honestly, like, it's not a breeding shrimp type tank for ease of access. But yeah, so Seattle water, exactly, Bentley. Seattle water, my water is like 28 at the highest, so it's almost like Lorena, hello, welcome. Seattle water is yes, and Seattle water is very soft. Oh, there's a crystal red. Seattle water is very soft, and so it's easy to put the two of them together. In that, if your red cherry shrimp can survive Seattle water, which a chunk will die if they come from a different region. Like, I have to say, Lucas Bretz shrimp, some of them died like 50% within a few months. But the ones that lived are super resilient now. And that's true with most shrimp, is within a generation, that will be the case. So up here, we've also still got the Tatia orca catfish. They're doing well. Those little Danios I bred in this bowl the other day. So I'm expecting some new babies to come out of these marbles within the next day to 3 days. And then over here, the Aru2s are all together. They've been making anywhere between 5 and 20 eggs a day again, now that it's gotten hotter again. And then I've got a question by Henry Boston. So, ever heard of anyone keeping dwarf crayfish and shrimp? I have. I love them. I used to keep them, then they outlawed them. So, legally speaking, I don't know anybody who does it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But a lot of people do. The CPOs, the Mexican crayfish, the blues and the oranges, a lot of people keep those. The self-cloning ones, a lot of people keep those for their pufferfish. Those ones, in my opinion, are the most... So there's another... Let's talk about that. That's another philosophical challenge in the hobby, is if you are really responsible, is it fair for you to keep an animal that, if it gets out into the ecosystem, literally one can self-replicate, and like in California, it's devastated. It's made 4 species of crawfish go extinct, or if not extinct, very close. Like, they can't find them anymore. And it's interesting to know how much that could impact things. That being said, up here in Washington, I want to cut people slack because crayfish that are from Mexico are going to withstand maybe down to 60-degree weather as their health, if they're wild caught or whatever, and they're going to die here in the winter. So there's not as much of a chance of them taking over. But now big crawfish or crayfish um, can really cause some problems, especially if they're released. So my personal opinion is if you've been keeping fish a while, you know you're not how to dispose of them. You want to make sure they're dead when they're flushed down the toilet even. Then yeah, do your thing, but don't tell anyone about it. And I can't condone that legally speaking, but that's like in my mind that makes sense. But yeah, crayfish will predate on fish, crawfish, crayfish, crawdads, crawdaddies, whatever you want to call them. A lot of the species in America will completely predate on anything that fits in their pincher, and then they'll work for days on dismantling it if they need to, and they'll eat some really rancid, nasty food. So yeah. Now, and that's another good point that Bentley just made, is that crawfish, crayfish, anything other than your CPOs. So CPOs are like no more than 1.5 inches to an inch. Usually they're 3/4 of an inch, and they're beautiful. They are bright electric blue, and they are also orange. And they're awesome. I love them. I don't think they should be illegal in Washington, but I suppose on the east side of the state or in some sort of maybe hot spring, they could wreak some havoc. They can overwinter slowly if the conditions are just right. Like some people have had them in ponds, and it's ended up where they have survived over a winter. But I just don't see them like mass spreading and evacuating. Now, you may have just seen the echo just released the female, and they may have new babies that just were laid in there because he's had her trapped in there for a while, and he just let her out, and now he's guarding the cave again, and that's real indicative of that. All right, let me look at the chat one more time, and then I have a friend I want to introduce to y'all.
What? I'm shirtless. Ah.
So this is Ben. Ben is a philosophy major. And he's here just hanging out with me to take care of me because I'm not to be trusted with my head injuries. So, and I'm probably not to be trusted without the head injuries. But yeah, so Henry Boston, what species of shrimp goes best with crayfish? I'm guessing some Neocaridina because crayfish prefer harder water generally. Well, there's so many crayfish, that's kind of a trick question. I'd need to know what kind of crayfish you have. A lot of the like ones you see at pet stores, some of those are even illegal. I've seen even Petco carrying illegal crayfish because they have different states with different rules, but they all share a supplier and they get shipped out. But I guess no one's taking it too seriously finding them. But I would say the smaller the better, and if it's from a similar environment as your shrimp, the better. So like the CPOs are not going to cause any problems. They live great with your Neocaridinas, and even they can tolerate your Caridinas in some cases, I've heard. But basically crayfish, like I said, can eat anything that will fit in their pincher. And sometimes the smaller little baby shrimp, they are safer than the adult shrimp in that case, but they're kind of an ambush predator, and they can move really, really quick. Was a red tail mosaic male for $4 a steal? I know nothing about guppy eye. Jesse Tanks, yeah, I actually have a red mosaic female guppy right up here. She's got a delta red tail, and she's pregnant. I like that I can tell that she, even as a female, is red. Her babies will be from Dean Tweedle by way of Chase Canton brought them over because I couldn't drive. So what a sweetheart. And I'm trying to get these R2s in a colony big enough that I can put them in multiple tanks because I love them. I love any fish that puts on a big display while it's breeding. But yeah, what would I say is the smallest, fastest producing shrimp? I would say relic turtle, that would be the Malawa shrimp or Malawi, Malawa. They are little black, kind of unassuming. They can be pink, black, gray, all the way over to kind of a flesh tone color, and they turn colors before your eyes. But they will have 50 to 100 babies, and they can have them every 30 days. In theory, cherry shrimp can also do that, like especially lines that have been bred to be prolific rather than colorful. Some people have those. If you go looking, people have prolific lines that are designed, they're selected by who reaches maturity the youngest and all that jazz. But I would say I've had some of the Malawa or Maliwa, whatever, I don't know how to say it. Malawa shrimp, and they're very unassuming. They blend in. You don't even really see them that much. Like that's like what the most you'd see of them is like against some surface. But they can breed in almost any condition, and a lot of stores, well, not a lot of stores. I know 2 stores that breed them in with like sword tails and other stuff that you would think that is dumb. They're all going to get eaten. But as long as they have some underbrush, the babies stay very still until they're a sizable size, and then they all pop out at once, making it harder to kill them all off. Whereas Caridina babies are not the smartest. They don't have an evolutionary strategy to all come out at once. I would say so. As a side note, I bred somewhat rare. I am a person who wants 95% true. That out of the way sounds like a great deal. Yeah, so if you paid $4 for a male, it's just where you're getting your females, because your females, oh, you lost your wife's blue lobster or crayfish overnight. I'm sorry, those are ones that I see at Petco from time to time. Maybe try, if they're legal in your area, the CPOs. They're small, they're beautiful, they reproduce as quick as Neocaridinas, and they're kind of fun. But the smallest but fastest producing shrimp, yeah, I would say between Neocaridina cherries, because they've been around the longest, they have the most variations and the most widespread gene pool. And if you could raise them, Amanos, they are big shrimp though, but they have a ton of babies when they're ready to have babies, but they need brackish or salt water. Very useful to know. I get the right contrast to aquascape and they would stand out. Yeah, I think they're Malawa. I think that's how you spell it. Malawa. Like it's an Indonesian or Malaysian word. So let's get to the meat and the potatoes of the show. Well, actually, before we get to meat and potatoes, let's get to beans and rice. This tank that I will be staring at with my feet inclined and or my back in a brace. What my plan is to take an area about where my hand is, like an L shape roughly, and raise it about yay high off the ground and have a bank cut that curves around and has these coming out as root snags, and then having a tree in the form of manzanita wood that's curly coming up out of the tank with ferns growing out of it, and then air plants and stuff, and then semi-immersed plants here. That's the ultimate goal. And then to have up on the lip, I want to have like maybe dwarf baby tears, very small crypts, and things like that. Whereas I'll have glosso, anubias. At the top would be anubias petite nana, and then down below would be like cophifolia and things like that, so that there's a sense that it gets smaller, that it's far away. And then that leaves about 2/3 of the tank open for schooling. And so I threw these guppies or endlers, I should say. There's one leopard endler in here. But I threw them in here just to see how many fish I needed to throw in this tank to make an impression. And this is 40, and to me, that does not make an impression at all. So I think I'm going to need...
They're not all schooling.
And yeah, I mean, they're all kind of together, but they're not really schooling around. So I think Danios are going to be my fish of choice. They're cheap, and they are interesting. Those ones you saw upstairs. The only thing is, I don't want anything too damaging or big in this tank that will eat all the little things. Because one of my favorite things about tanks is like laying down with my head here, looking in through the side. This is a 18 breeder or a 40 breeder, so I'm able to look in the 18-inch window, which is like almost a 10-gallon tank on its own. And I will be able to fall asleep to watching, you know, shrimp move around, the plants growing, all of that stuff. But right now I'm just working on getting a carpet of stargrass, a carpet of the hydrocotyl tripartite in different spots, and getting the Boos and Anubias to graft on to the logs. Would you consider mosses on the trunk of a tree? I think that could really help with parameters. Yeah, totally. I definitely, that's the plan, honestly. I don't have much moss in here right now, but if you guys saw that tank upstairs, there's a lot of moss growing in between the stones. But I'm trying to think of the best way to build. By the way, check out this crypt. I don't know what it's called. I got it for $3 at Aquarium Co-op. Another person had brought it in, but it is a very nice. It's like purple and bronze on one side, and then it's like a nice green on this side. But it's big. I mean, it's like a 2-footer type crypt. But in any case, I just threw that in there. Right now, the goal of everything, I'm just packing it with CO2, packing it with good water flow, biomedia in the corner, biomedia in the back. This thing's supercharged with the sponge, another sponge hidden, and basically I'm trying to get the ammonia out and nitrogen nitrates out of the ADA Amazonia, and it doesn't seem to be bugging the fish at all. I have kept up to 50 gallons in a 10-gallon, but a lot of water changes. They can look impressive. Thank you, Bentley. That is Blasii. Thanks. Blasii Crypt. I love it. I wish it wasn't so big. But yes. So, Ben, we're going to have a panel. You want to join the panel?
Sure, what's that mean?
So, basically, I have a couple questions, and we're going to get into the episode here. I know this turned into a lot of question and answer, but that's fine too. You know what I mean? Like that's what this is here for, is to be community and all that jazz. Also, by the way, I've got about a dozen species of Boos now. Bentley and I were talking. It is not scientific. People name Boos like they would name weed, where they just decide, like, I'm going to throw out a random name, like Princess Kitty Pants, and that's going to be the name of this Boos. And there are species or subspecies, like, with large differences, like the stem is red, or Katharina, or brownie eye, things like that, where the leaves are black, or the flowers are white, or whatever it may be. But beyond that, like brownie eye ghost versus blue ghost, like there's some kind of questionable things going on there frequently. From complex life about platyfish, or maybe long fin minor tetras, or maybe a big school of green tetras. You know, I thought about doing that because this is going to be a real dark tank in the back. It's going to have like a embankment and then lots of green with pretty much just crypts. And then I'm going to keep this, which is kind of odd, I know, but I'm going to keep the Pantanal and the Boos and a few Ludwigias as my main color pops. And I'm going to keep them cut short And this is doing a terrible job of showing how beautiful these things are. I got these from Bentley, the Pantanal.
Man, that's so true. I'm looking through the screen, and it just doesn't do it any justice for whatever reason.
Yeah, the reds just don't really show up through it all.
Yeah, the orange looks yellow, and the reds just look like washed out pink.
Yeah, washed out, exactly. So, but yeah, I've thought about green tetras, love green tetras. I've had many green tetras in my life, probably like, I'm not joking, maybe 1,000 since I was a kid. And the most I've had in the tank was about 100. But I'm kind of hoping that I breed those Danios successfully, and then those Danios can fill up this. But I don't know, like, I also want to be able to have erythromicrons and, you know, like, kind of gentle, quieter fish that can hide in the corners, because I love the surprise of, like, oh yeah, I forgot I had one of those fish. Like, oh, I've got a bumblebee goby, or I've got, you know, a you know, a pandagara or a hillstream loach, like something like that. I love remembering that something's in your tank. Relic Turtle says if you could build a marble pile inside those plants for that, you could breed the fish. Yeah, totally. Like, the other thing is I can hide lots of stuff in here. So I can have like a nursery where like there's a pile of marbles back there and some Java moss, and then maybe they'll lay eggs in there, and then I can put something like pearlweed over that, like on the lip, and kind of hide it. But that would be a nursery. Also, the Blixa with a ground cover in combo will definitely provide some nursery space. And then the erectus, the pogostemon erectus, if you cut that carefully, so you cut it at a steep diagonal angle, and then let it fork off and grow straight up and out at an angle, like I did upstairs, you can get it to kind of tier, so it's kind of a stepped shape, and then you can unplant the whole thing and move it forward, and that makes for very dense hiding spots for fry where like the parents just cannot hunt them down. The issue is a lot of fry want to go to the top to eat little teeny bugs and things rather than seed shrimp. This is not a seasoned tank, so it may be some time before anybody wants to naturally breed in here, other than say like rainbow fish or something. But again, if I did praecox, neon dwarf rainbows, that would be a great option in this size of a tank. But they are real nippy and aggressive, and I think certain like that should be tapered by saying compared to the shy fish that I like. So it's not settled what I'm gonna get. This will be a work in progress. I need to scape it and like kind of rip out everything anyways. For now, it's just this is a great source of nutrients and light and CO2, and it even gets some natural light from the window for a few hours. So it's I'm trying to fight the algae that comes with a new tank when you do it Amazonian ADA style. Oddball Aquatics, you're back. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this around. Ben and I are going to be scoot over, Ben.
Okay.
Okay. So Ben, my longtime friend and psychology, philosophy companion. Him and I philosophize on the world a lot, but want to talk about some questions. So, a question I had the other day, Ben, is what do fish... hold on one sec. Mysterious stranger fish, how about banjo catfish or maybe freshwater goby? Yeah, gobies are an option. Banjo catfish, probably not. I'm probably going to keep it to Corridoras. Want to come to Ireland? I'd love to come to Ireland. Okay, let's keep
question.
Okay, back to the question. By the way, if anybody is wondering what animal that is on the wall, that is a tauntaun, a real animal in an imaginary world of Star Wars. And anatomically, that's what it would look like, with a musk oxen's scent glands, as well as a carnivore's sensory glands and the nasal cavity to breathe air at like -50 Fahrenheit. So I kind of looked at existing creatures and made that up. Moving on.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, it's not important. It has nothing to do with fish. Okay, where's the chat? There we go. Okay.
Okay.
So, we're getting into the woo-woo. So, we have the first question I wrote down is, do fish know who they... Hey, Eleanor. Do fish know what fish they are? Because I've had schools of fish, and like, you know, a cherry barb join lamb chop rasboras and live out the rest of their days all getting along. But how do they know that? I mean, like, that they are or aren't. Like, how does a guppy know that it is a guppy and not some other comparably sized fish? So, is it pheromones? That's my guess. Is it some sort of pheromone system?
I know they have ways of communicating, and I know that they'll respond to, like, natural predators with innate responses, but I think that, like, you know, if you have fish that get along well together, I think that they don't really think about their species much. I don't think their thoughts are, like, comparable to ours. It's more like predation and type, right?
Yeah, because the other thing is, so in the tank over here, there are two types of endlers. There are the blue cloud endlers, which are closer to wild types, and then there are the leopard endler mixes, but they don't intermix so much. How do they know who their group is? Like, they do intermix a little bit here and there, but they'll hang out in little gangs of like 6 versus 10 or whatever. And I was looking at that the other day, and I was like, they can't see their own pattern, can they? Or maybe they can see their tail or something. But I was just curious, is it like that the group rejects them compared to the other ones? So if you guys have any idea on how fish... We're just throwing out ideas, but I've seen some really strange fish communities where, like, there's a school of, I don't know, whatever they are, and they all become friends with, like, some weird one. In that case, I say it like any species is similar enough that there'd be an interesting clicks, but this extends beyond fish. Yeah, I mean, it's the question of, like, are animals self-aware? To us, we say even chimpanzees are not necessarily, like, they look in the mirror and realize that's them. It takes them a while, and they're the closest thing. That and dolphins, I think.
Because they don't have mirror technology on their own.
Right, but fish do have water, so maybe they can look at the top of the water as a mirror, but I kind of doubt that level of processing.
I suspect they think that it's another fish.
Do you think that it has to do with them seeing the same fish when they are born and millions of years of it happening?
I think there's more smell of the fish.
I think pheromones and smells and maybe even like electrical or geomagnetic signals might be going on, just like with pigeons and stuff. But I don't know. Birds will lay eggs in other nests to raise them. Yeah, and so will like Synodontis catfish. They will do that. They're called the cuckoo catfish for that reason.
I suspected that happened with fish too.
Yeah, and a lot of cichlids do that too, where they'll kick out the babies, lay their own eggs, and they'll get raised.
So lazy.
Yeah. We're all great apes that haven't grown beyond toddler age. Well, that's one opinion. I understand that sentiment.
I've heard cats think that we're all like giant baby cats if they're close to us, because they're, you know.
Hey, thank you, Disco Beetle. Love your channel. Probably the best channel on YouTube that you found. Well, that means a lot to me, especially because you're coming at the channel at a time where I'm not in tip-top shape, and I've been slacking on the actual history videos and kind of doing more what's going on in my fish realm and answering some more generic questions. John Gonzalez says, I think it's hormonal. They may give them hormones. Yeah, so for now, I mean, these are Q's without A's. That was the title, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's say something along those lines. I don't know. So now the next one that I had is a sensitive topic. Probably not for anyone on here, but maybe. I will love to do
I
the
love
history
corridors, too.
of corridoras.
Yeah.
Ben and I both love corridoras and plecos and like little
They're just the
underdog
cutest
cute
little
fish. Yeah.
Fish. They're just
And in this tank, I plan on doing Sturbis and Hebrosis and maybe Juliais. I don't know. Probably 3 corridors will be in there. And if you know me, you know I'm going to put, like, if that's a 40-inch tank, I'm putting 80 inches of fish in there and over-filtering it and doing 2 water changes a week or whatever.
it's a fish tank if you can't see the fish.
Yeah, and that brings up another hypothetical question. So schooling probably came from predators. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I've heard that it helps to fend off.
Yeah, so schooling, there's 2 ways of schooling that I've read in, it's called emergence is the name of the study of swarms, and it's emergent intelligence or technology. And it says that, like, schools of fish have a rule, like, always follow the fish to your right, and if everybody hits the deck, you hit the deck in the same direction at the same speed. And that causes a domino effect. And then it's that any fish at any given time can change to be the leader of that. And there's different rules for different swarms of bees, of fish, of shrimp, whatever, of anything. But they're these very simple, usually boil it down to 5 or 6 rules, and you can kind of predict the way they swarm. Now, big fish will come through, they'll break up the school with their mouth open, and then they'll try to eat the fish that are trying to regather back up into different new little schools. Divide and conquer. Evolution of the skull shows the difference between babies were actually the same, but as difference in the growth of the jaw muscles for fish, similar species will hang. Hold on, it disappeared. Will, if they get along. Yeah, I could see that. Like, if they all eat kind of the same thing and do the same things, that they could still school together. Although, like, a red fish in a blue fish school might be like. I mean, he could be the eyeball on the giant fish that they're trying to make up by being a school. Like, ooh, we're scary. We're more than like 600 little fish, sardines. We're one big fish. But he could also be like, dude, Fred, you're killing us. Like, they know we're little fish. I don't know. Do you have any process for preparing newly purchased plants? My process usually goes like this. I bought the plant from a place I trust. I throw it in the tank. No, if I don't know the person or their tanks are kind of dirty or whatever, I usually will put it in a bucket of chlorinated water just from my tap. And then sometimes, although I've had this backfire on gentle or little delicate plants, but I will put like 1/10 bleach in a bucket, and for 10 minutes I'll do some bleach dips, and that gets rid of snails too. And then set them on paper towels, and the snails that are left will crawl away. Who's the naked guy? He's not naked. He's got, well, I was like, that shot didn't really help.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's just like 90 degrees today, so.
And I'm in a room that's got a bunch of,
humidity,
lights, and fish tanks.
Yeah.
And I just biked here.
And he biked here, yeah. Emergent behavior are amazing. Define half a dozen rules, and all of a sudden the flock is acting like a single organism. Disco Beetle, you are right on. So if you guys don't know, he just wrote it out, but check out emergent behaviors, emergent swarm identity, swarm mathematics. It is fascinating. There is a famous guy, and pardon me, my brain doesn't work.
Wilson did with ants. I don't know.
Yeah, what's his name?
E.O. Wilson.
E.O. Wilson. Yep, that's it.
Edward O. Wilson.
Edward R. Wilson. He found out the pheromone signals that ants use, and UPS uses that same system now to establish hubs. They see where packages are most prevalent, and once it hits a critical mass, they'll put a sub-hub there, and then they'll put another hub, and it's the same exact, like, they literally paid him to study ants to figure out how to delegate resources in the quickest way possible. Amazon too. Very interesting.
That is very interesting.
We don't have AC in Seattle either.
Yeah,
a lot of
we
people
don't use
are
it
like,
for a month or two, so it's not
Yeah.
usually worth buying one.
but it's getting worse. Like I feel like the last 5 or 6 years we've had
people have people in the
people
upper middle
start
class have broken out and are
Yeah.
getting all the AC units.
We're-
I'm kind of sad because
we're-
it's a lot of energy, but
It is a lot of energy, but we're honestly just kind of broke, and that's why we don't have AC. Maybe I don't know.
maybe I just think open the window at night, cool off your place.
Hasn't
and,
been cooling
close
at
it
night,
up,
though,
or
too
like
much.
drapes can help.
Yeah.
If you plan things out, you can usually don't need it.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on evolution? Are you thinking like mollies and platies are not too similar because they form offspring just like a mule but get along still?
Well, I mean,
so-
fish that are more algae eating and eat the same things but don't predate on each other are more likely just to get along.
Yeah,
'Cause they're
so
just not aggressive.
live
naturally
bears
aggressive.
as a rule, but it's a rule that's broken other places. But most of the live bears are from Central or South America, and you've got mollies, platies, goodyeads, endlers, guppies, swordtails. There's a bunch of other ones too, but those are the ones that are in the hobby really big. And it's pretty well established that mollies and platies are earlier in that gene line than swordtails, endlers, and guppies all broke off. And it's debatable to the death between scientists
About when and who.
when
broke off
and
first
who is related to who. And there is genetic testing that's been done. The problem is they've crossed back and forth, and they may get stuck in a lake. Maybe it's like one lake where the swordtail's DNA overpowers it for 10,000 years during the Ice Age, and then that ice dam breaks or whatever, and it spreads back out, and then the molly DNA is more prevalent in the rivers or whatever. So what are your thoughts on evolution? Okay, no AC, rough. Yeah, people are always like, oh, you guys in Seattle are wimps. Well, we don't have AC. I don't even have like AC in my car that works. Like,
We just fixed our AC in our car. We've used it like twice.
yeah, so when it gets hot here, it's like there's no relief. Whereas I've been in the South plenty of times. I've been in Arizona. Eastern Washington gets 120 degrees in some spots. But still, there's not a ton of AC there. It's kind of odd.
Grocery stores.
Grocery
and
stores, yeah.
Businesses will have it.
Your brain not working at 100% is still better than most people's at 100%.
Yeah, I read that one. I thought it was funny.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Energy needs, if possible, and solar and triple down batteries. Oh, triple down? Is that trickle down batteries?
Yeah,
I think trickle down. Or setting up air current patterns. Airflow is just like water. I agree. We need way more renewable stuff. Europe has a mind on that. Even in like their fish tanks, like everything is about like, oh, you've got a hang off the back filter? We'll put a water wheel on that and generate energy for your lights. Like, that seems like a no-brainer. So, I want to toy around with some of that stuff. That is history in the making to me. And I think that that's another... I freely admit that I have not made the best use of my energy consumption. Like, this rack here has lights on it that are all LED now, at least. So I'm saving a lot of energy there, and I'm not wasting a ton of heat. But nevertheless, if I have a bubble sponge filter, that saves a lot. Hey, you can see the Corys are mating right now.
What? Oh, I see it. Oh.
So they're mating,
Wow.
and hopefully they do it over the mop. And so I'll have to keep an eye on this tank, but that is kind of magical. I have a feeling if I get too close, they'll stop. But that's pretty cool. They just did the little T formation, and I don't know where they're laying the eggs, if they're laying them there. There's also just Mr. Dunce in the corner, who doesn't get to lay. But yes, they just went inside the mop. That was the whole point, or they did for a sec. The whole point. They also might be kind of sparring to show who's who, and get a submissive one. But I like on this channel, I like not being set up at a desk like some channels, like as easy as that would be for me. I like coming around because sometimes I see something and I'm like, hey, I want to share this with you guys. Like, it's pretty interesting behavior. Now the other quarries are coming in, and so I'm really curious what's going on. This may not be, that may not have been mating. That could have been territorial. I'm not close enough to see if that was a female, but it did look like standard head to the belly T position, which the male actually kind of headbutts the female, forces eggs out, and then will come up beside her, and he'll come beside her, pun intended, and fertilize the eggs. They'll usually do it onto a glass surface or something like that, though. Okay, let's see. Fancy Tail Aquatics.
Oh, so they're all in the same.
Guppy, let's see,
genus.
Reticulata, Molly's, yeah, they can interbreed with each other for sure, but Molly's offspring are sterile, Endlers and Guppies are fine, right? And it's arguable whether Guppies and Endlers are even two separate things to some scientists. Most agree that they're different and that they were locked away in Venezuela and in the islands as the Ice Age receded. As the Ice Age receded. And so, but the debate will continue in chicken or the egg, and DNA is actually not helping a ton right now because there's too many variables, and we also killed the endemic species of Endlers in certain ponds and lagoons. There's like one lagoon left that has a few, and a river. That simple adaptation, like a frog and a toad. Yep, exactly. So the next question I had, and might be the last question we get to today. We'll set up this another day, but I wanted to talk about. Let's see here on this list. What do we want to talk about?
I know, I'm looking at it too.
Hey, is cuttlefish bone a good source of calcium for cherry shrimp? Yes, it is. I use that once in a while. I will also use eggs. I'll boil up some eggs. I'll crush up the eggs, the egg shells, and boil them again, like after I peel the hard-boiled eggs. And then I'll put that in the hang off the back filter or in a corner. And that will oftentimes be enough to the bacteria will eat that, and then that bacteria gets eaten by the shrimp and the little fish, and then it makes its way up the food chain and so forth and so on. Break off little pieces and it will sink and it melts into the water. You don't want to put like a whole piece of shell or cuttlefish in like a 5 or 10 gallon fish tank, because your GH is going to skyrocket, and that might be okay with like cherry shrimp, but it's not going to be okay with all forms of Neocaridina. Like green jades are still a little sensitive. Blues can still be somewhat sensitive depending on the line. I'm still just looking at these Julii Corridoras. I think the female's right in the front there. She's the biggest. And so if she lets the male headbutt her in the belly again or in the side, then you'll know that they're thinking about babies. And it's a hot day, and sometimes a hot day will my car does not have working AC right now, but good idea. My wife's car does. And I need it. Okay, so last thing we're going to discuss. Let's talk about glowfish. So if you don't know what glowfish are, and I'm not talking about glow tetras or glow light tetras or glow light danios. I am talking about the man from Singapore and Taiwan, well, funding from Japan and Taiwan, man, Singapore, distribution-wise, that created danios and barbs and all sorts of stuff, and he made fish that have jellyfish enzymes in them and are neon, like, highlighter marker colors. So if you haven't seen them, Google glowfish, GLOW, I think. I don't know. Maybe there's not a W. It might be trendy. But yes, so they are using jellyfish DNA. So it's not like like the old days when people would actually tattoo fish or inject into the subcutaneous layer a dye, which could make like a cherry barb blue or whatever. This is the actual genetics of the fish. They are born with the color because of intense, like $1 billion of research into getting, and I'm not joking.
Yeah.
And it's also, they still have glass fish here in Petland. Glass fish, glass catfish. But in any case, I think my problem is the same with Waterbox channel discussed this a while back. And I think that my problem is it's all just a bit too gimmicky. Like that they look so neon colored and stuff. I don't have any. And they cost more money. And some do look cool. Like I like the tiger barbs, I think they are. Look really cool. Like they look like a creamsicle or something, the orange ones. And some of the purple Danios and stuff, like, don't get me wrong, I think some of them look cool. It's the black lights so that they fluoresce, and the, like, rocks with, like, Dayglow 90s style, like, Candy Kid Raver colors and stuff in it that I just can't get it's too, like, I see why kids would like it, but to me, I want to get closer to nature as a fish hobbyist rather than farther. Yeah, my wife has asked about getting Jesse's tank says, my girlfriend asks about getting them. She always says, to get them, you have 10 tanks and you can't even put them in one. And I've never really agreed with it. He says Monsanto fish. Yeah, kind of. I don't think the problem is that the DNA has been changed. We do that through selection. I agree with Lorena. That's not what bugs me because, yeah, we breed long fin fish, and that's a matter of just slowly doing it over time, right? But since the fish that are by nature glowing, they have a hard time adapting to light. Interesting. I didn't know that about them. So maybe they have some living quality of life problems. I didn't know that, but
Usually these adaptations not coming from nature, I imagine these fish will have a harder time. They might have a shorter life.
yeah. And
But
Daryl
we'll
said,
have to see with successive generations.
yeah. Well, so here's the kick. The other part that bugs me is the patent. So you can have the fish, you're not allowed to breed them. That is copyright infringement, and they have patented.
So to call them Monsanto fish is correct because
Yeah.
Monsanto did that with their,
Tomatoes and
well, the genetic technology to allow things to be Roundup ready.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
glycophosate.
glyphosate, and then also the one that's the terminating seeds that die at a certain point unless you add the magical powder. Yeah, Monsanto's done some. I mean, they helped make golden rice, which was a good thing, kind of. Let me talk about that. So golden rice was a rice that had protein and it had, what was it? Vitamin A and C and I don't know. It
had certain things that were missing from the staple diet in Southeast Asia or Asia.
Southeast Asia and East Africa, and so we sent it over, and we in the late '90s, and we fed Ethiopians and Somalis specifically is the case that I know about because I have a friend who's Somali that I lived with, and we gave them this rice which grows in drought resistant, or it's a drought resistant rice by design, and basically they grew all this rice that they had to buy, and it doesn't naturally go to seed, and you can't make it. You have to buy each
Successive generation of seeds.
generation of seeds. It's sterile by design. They could have undone that, and because of that, they then rely on Monsanto, and then they also rely on the fertilizer or activator or whatever it is that turns that on. So, in Ethiopia and Somalia, on a human and historical note, their population between 1998, I believe it was, and 2008 exploded like threefold because they had all this food aid coming in from the U.S., but they have one river in Somalia, one river that's more than 2 meters across, and it's on the Kenyan border. So most of the country has no rivers. It has some underwater aquifers that have some oasis and things like that, and then they've got the coastline with a misty fog that settles that they can condense into water. But we did that meaning well, and that saved millions of lives of people who were going to starve at that time. But as soon as we stop providing that, you have a population explosion, and not enough food, and a third of the population dies the Ogaden region.
It's now bare, but if they wanted to suddenly raise the price drastically on the seed, it could threaten that population that just was created, which is really weird, because we're talking about humans, we're not talking about fish populations.
Right.
There's a lot more moral quandary there.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's just another thing of, like, you mean well. Like, the scientist who made golden rice, I can't remember his name, he won a Nobel Prize. But
they didn't do it for the Nobel. They did it for the company they work for, because it's part of the, strategy that they're working on, and because it was a moneymaker.
Well, that, and I think the scientists working on it probably did mean well, like, I think the individuals... I think that can be a motivator. Yeah. But... love from England, by the way. SMB, thanks. I love y'all over the pond. I want to make a trip over there when I'm doing better and have some more money. Are we talking about genetically manipulated glowfish? That's by injection. To say simple, that's not adaptation. Yeah, we're talking about genetically glowfish. Yeah, genetically modified. I understood glowfish had a purpose. They would change color when exposed to water, chemistry, or predators. I can't remember these. They stay that color. That would be interesting. That is not what they have become for public consumption. I would love a fish, though, that can withstand wide parameters and it turns from blue to purple when ammonia is too high in your tank. That would be dope.
Yeah, you have some fish that are more delicate that you try to keep in each tank so you can keep a watch on the pH, knowing that some fish will...
I use ruby tetras for that reason. Yeah, they turn a light pink. Instead of a red when the ammonia or the nitrates get too high. And is that ethical? Probably not. It's kind of like, I'll wait for them to be tortured just a little, and then I'll change the water.
Maybe.
But that would be cool if I had a water change glowfish. It's like what Stannis from the Game of Thrones says, a good act doesn't wash out the bad, nor bad the good. Well, I suppose that's it. Or no good deed goes unpunished. I don't know. Rather enjoyed this stream. Fancy Tale Aquatic. Good. Can we please talk about if it's ethical to breed fish for smaller bodies? I breed plecos and I see a lot of stuff at the local fish store. I sell the short body plecos. Wait, where?
Sad stuff?
And I see a lot of... I'm going to guess that's sad stuff. I personally like smaller bodied fish, and that's a selfish thing, but as long as it doesn't impede them, like the pug, I feel bad for it. Has breathing problems, bulldogs and pugs, things like that. Yeah. I feel bad for them. But if your fish are okay and they're runts and they're going to be kept in captivity, as long as their health doesn't suffer, for me that's a great, do what you want with your fish, long fin, short fin, size wise. But if that runt of the litter also has health problems and you're continuing that, that's where I feel like it's probably better to not do that. My shrimp only eat with the light off. They're not very active. A lot of shrimp will eat at sunset. Try turning your light dimmer and feeding them something they really love, like green beans or something fresh. And that's a way to train them to come out more. Let's see here. It was for radiation originally, says Swag Skywalker. Is that for the glowfish? Well, originally I know that they wanted to find cancer cells, and so they put jellyfish proteins into mice, and any cancer cell would then glow under a certain light or under radiation, and so they would be able to find cancer by injecting this dye or contrast into these mice. And so the mice, then they could use that plasma from the mice or whatever, inject it into a person, and it would cause the cancer to phosphoresce. And then they could spot it and do work, which is actually where the guy got the idea. And jellyfish protein had been looked at for 20 years for that.
I think it was just one of the first genetic tags people would do, is they would, like log it as theirs by tagging, like an organism with this gene.
Totally, and I'm against that. Like they tag money wise, and they're like, this is our living creature, and we have a patent on it, and you can't breed it, even though you clearly can, but it's illegal to breed the fish or sell them or mix them. I don't know. To me, that's like you said above, Doctor of Moreau, whatever, Isle of Dr. Moreau. Big Texas Tanks, how's it going, buddy? Welcome. Hello. You can catch the replay tonight. I'd like to say the same here. Smaller should be okay if harms no dice, like thinking a pygmy, anything on a small island. Yeah, I mean, same deal. And some of those critters do have shorter lives and things, some of the weird natural things. But another person said that the glowfish get people into the hobby, like kids. And I agree, that's good, that's fine. I mean, even if it floats your boat and you're an adult, that's fine. It's like, I feel like it's kind of like when you go to a party and you're like, yeah, I'll have a Mike's Lemonade, and everyone's like, psh, that's not for men. Like,
It's more fluorescent. I feel like Mike's Hard Lemonade is like more normal or more comparable to like beer coolers. This is like
wine coolers.
This is like going to your wife's party and everyone's drinking white wine. You bust out a Four Loko and you're like, yeah, just because.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. Yeah, it's closer to that.
By the way, those things are pretty fluorescent colored. I don't know why. Most people drink it out of the can, right? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do we do that with kids' food?
I don't know. That's odd. You have glowfish. Whoa, wine, wet sleeves. Well, you got the wine and the glowfish. That's what we were just talking about. So, awesome. Eleanor Smith, I agree. What did Eleanor say? I must have missed it. Quality of life and health should always be paramount in breeding. I agree, but I would say that fish breeding in general is kind of a nasty little secret on how a lot of it is done. They put things in small areas, and they cram males and females that sometimes chew each other apart, especially like Oscars, red tears, or green tears, red devils, things like that. And also shipping in fish, like 2/3 die of some types of fish.
But yeah, when you ship fish to people, distances,
you're
gonna have a lot of lossage.
So like, there are some dirty secrets. I think whoever opens a fish shop has to be a little bit of a sadist, or immune to that at least. Like, they may love the fish once they get them, but they have to be cool with like killing like half the fish to get them.
Couldn't teach you animal ethics because there's just so many dirty aspects, and when things go wrong or your fish gets sick, you have to kill all of them so that they can't transfer.
There's a lot of culling and separating, and then like living experiments, I hate to say, but like, let's see if this medicine works, and I'm gonna not treat this fish to see how quickly this disease would have
Well,
killed.
I think some people have more resources, so they don't have to just straight experiment. I
Yeah,
think some
that's
people
true.
can go and
That's
like
true.
look to their community and try to figure out what works with both the owners and. But people look to owners for like, well, I did this and this works. So like, sometimes I imagine some of these owners are getting bad advice from their own customers.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I don't know. This person told me it worked, so I'll try it.
So SMB says, what's the best veggies to feed shrimp? CU's Rove tried cucumbers and carrots. They don't give a damn. I agree. They don't give a damn about those. Plecos like cucumbers. Green beans. I agree. You don't
Plecos do
even
like
need to
cucumbers.
cook them. Shrimp and plecos love snap peas and green beans. If you blanch them for like 30 seconds, that is even more of a help. It's interesting. Snails and stuff know to eat those, but not the other plants like instantly. And they'll come from across the tank instantly for green beans. So I really like feeding them green beans. It's how I also treat if I need to get some sort of medicine into a shrimp or into a pleco. I will put it in the green bean or cover the green bean in it.
That's not
For,
really
for
bad.
mass production, yeah, it's a bit odd. Kind of like the honeymoon resorts, just pure setup. Yeah, strain plecos, that is.
I think everyone's agreeing with you on the green beans.
Yeah, everyone seems to say green beans too. Now, I've tried corn, but you gotta bust open the outside of the corn kernel, otherwise they can't get in there. But they like that sweet corn if you're willing to cut open each corn. But what you can do is get corn on the cob. If you have a really sharp knife, cut it into 4 pieces and then cut the outside so you're seeing that juiciness of the corn. It makes the water a little milky, but they will dig on that, both plecos and shrimp. How do you think about keeping cichlids with eels? Fresh water, obviously. Go for it. You might lose some cichlids, but I would give it a shot. Just be smart about it. Like, use common sense. I've been feeding mine zucchini and they could care less. They also don't like leaves on snails. Alright, guys, well, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks, Ben, for dropping by. I'm going to hang out with Ben now. I actually need to rest because just even being up this long, my face starts getting all red and I start getting sweatier than normal. And we'll talk about more ethical stuff. On my list, just to read it off real quick, was Fancy Tail Aquatics. Thank you for being in this stream. Thank you all. And good to see you, Jesse Tanks. Good to see everybody in here. Blackhorn Mountain Chicken of Doom. That is a name that I like and love. Yeah, that's a good one. So other questions I had on here that can wait for another time. And if you guys have more questions, let me know. Down the wormhole, good to see ya. Lorena, take a nap. I will. Take care of take care. Love from England. Emma, thank you so much, sweetheart. And Oddball, thanks. Shirtless Ben. Shirtless Ben is the best. I mean, I really don't like Ben any other way.
Shush.
Unless we're going out to dinner, then our ladies are like,
Yeah.
You guys, like,
It's the
tie dye
season.
and no
White
shirt.
guys, they
Yeah.
just go shirtless. I don't
Yeah,
know.
tie
It's just
dye
a thing. You
and
get
like
away with it.
hacky sack and frisbees. It's just like, we went to a liberal arts college. We're sorry. We're,
Oh my
we're
god, yeah.
philosophers.
There's so many shirtless people on campus all the time. It's
We don't have dreads though, right? No white dude dreads.
I've never had dreads.
Jew dreads. So all right, guys, we've got a couple questions just to keep you thinking about the future. Conditions that we breed fish in, both farm and local. Ben's a keeper. There you go, Eleanor.
Uh-huh. Thanks.
Thanks, Eleanor. Tell Eleanor thanks, Ben.
I said thanks, Eleanor.
There we go. All right. Thank you. You guys make me feel better. My day a bit brighter. You had a rough day. Nice to meet your friend. Have a good day. Relic Turtle, I hope your day gets better, man. It's all about, look at the little things in your tank. Look at the nature. Stay calm and just try to remember that it's all impermanent, good or bad. And we'll get through it. Or if we don't, we won't know what hit us. Or if you're really religious, you're going to go somewhere better. So really, there aren't that many bad options other than continuing in a bad rut. But you can always fix that by your choices, usually. Yes, my homie is hella chill, man. And that's
I
why
love the
I've
fish stuff,
hung
but
out
I
with him for
just
15
can't
years.
know enough, compared to you.
Well, alright. Thanks for sending me good vibes. Keep calm and carry on. Alright, so I also had wild tank versus farm raised and what that does to the local economies. If they're gold or logging going on in the region, it's going to get destroyed anyways. Is it better to pay them to raise fish? Enjoy nature daily, I agree. Local fish stores versus Amazon.com versus Petco and what you're doing to the community. And then tank size, how many fish go in a tank per inch? Well, we've talked about that in a lot of other ways. I just kind of already told you that. And then I also had importing fish and shrimp and then the dangers of that. Mixing oddball fish, even if you know that one might die, but doing it as an experiment for the hobby. That's another one ethically that I'm curious about your opinions on. Breeding conditions, wild raised versus tank raised in behavior, and feeding live fish to your fish. And I think that's like, I don't have an ethic problem with that usually, but I feel like we do a disservice because those comet goldfish or minnow fish at stores that you buy to feed your fish are full of like gross food and just they've been kept in poor conditions. So feed them something that you've been raising that's healthy that you have too many of, like guppies or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you gotta feed your fish, you could raise them better so they're eating more organic fish, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one.
Then you know at least those fish had a decent life.
That's right. And the last one I was going to say that I had lined up for today, but as always, we got off topic and we just chatted with each other, which is what I love. And it was the point of what the hobby does that hurts people, that you don't even think about. I will say to Relic Turtle that it is legal in our state.
Yep.
And that's what I'm going to say about that, but I don't because I have anxiety. So, basically, I wanted to talk about, glass. We're running out of glass for skyscrapers, like plastics. Plastics are bad. They're, petroleum byproducts a lot of times. They're all over the hobby. We could be using renewable stuff. The energy we use is all, drains things. We could be using renewable energy. Transporting fish is hard and kind of wasteful and dangerous, and fish die. So there's a lot of ethical stuff about the actual physical hobby that I would like to talk about in the future too. Yeah. You guys take it easy. Have a relaxing afternoon or day. Say hi to Ben or bye to Ben. Bye, Ben.
Have a good night if that's what time it is for you guys.
Yeah, wherever you're at. Like in Britain, it's got to be
whenever
like
you're watching it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, as always, take care of yourselves so you can take care of the people around you and your fish, and then everyone's good. Spread the love and the knowledge. And a link of this if you would like to, because it's always good to get this channel to grow, get more good people in the community. I love you all. You mean a lot to me. This is really helping my personal recovery to have this outlet. And I will talk to you next time. Yeah, so midnight over in the UK. But all right, you guys, take it easy. SMB and Turtle Relic. There was a decade where it was good for anxiety for me, and then it stopped. All right, guys, take it easy, and I'm gonna go lay down. Hey, Ben.
Oh, hey.
Our wives are away. My wife's away.
They're at work.
What will happen in the fish room? Nothing. We got another friend coming over. All right, exactly. Guys. Take it easy. And goodbye to Shirtless Ben.